What's going on? Let's talk about Aer's brand new Street Sling that they just launched today. I'll get into my favorite things about it, as always, some of the nitpicks. I'll walk you through it, and I'll also compare it to the City Sling 3 and why, even though they're both fantastic options for a compact pocket relief sling for your absolute essentials, I still slightly like the City Sling 3 a little bit more. So let's get into it. The TLDR on what I really like about the sling is overall how it looks. Secondly, the Fidlock V-buckle, which is my favorite magnetic buckle latch mechanism. And lastly, the front quick access pocket that I think is unique, especially given the top-down vertical orientation of this sling as opposed to most slings, which are more horizontally accessed. So you're grabbing things on their side more than you are upright. As far as the look goes, very much a personal thing, but I think a lot of the design decisions that were made around this sling are favoring form over function a little bit, even though I think a lot of people will prefer the vertical orientation for snagging their things. I'll get into why it's still not my favorite with the way it was executed. But regardless, this little mini storm shield flap, the Fidlock buckle, the shape, I'll get into the straps a little later on, but the thinner straps just makes it both a little casual and more stylish at the same time. Secondly is the Fidlock V-buckle. This thing's been around for some time, and it is of the magnetic latch mechanisms, buckles, my favorite. Like, it's just so satisfying. It really is almost like a fidget tool. Is it completely overkill for what you end up needing it for? Sure. But it's also like half of a bag is just enjoying interacting with it. And for me, the focal point of this sling is just the front admin panel and this buckle. And I genuinely just enjoy having an excuse to get in and out of there. Which leads me to the last thing that I really like is just the overall front admin pocket on here. I personally don't put my phone in a sling, rarely ever, unless I'm like going to a pool or a beach, somewhere where I don't feel like my phone is secure in my pocket. But I know a lot of people, like, that's the main thing that they're putting in their sling: phone, AirPods, those essentials. And this is really great for a phone in the sense that most slings, you put your phone and it goes in this orientation. So snagging your phone out, while it's not hard at all to grab it like this, there's something so much more organic about pulling your phone out when it's there. Now, the pocket does work for other things, obviously, beyond a phone, like a mobile battery bank, whatever you might want quickest and easy access to. But when I get into the nitpicks, you'll also understand why this pocket is so important to me compared to other organizational compartments in this sling. Now, as far as the nitpicks, the things I was a little bit less fond of, it's mainly the main compartment zipper, the rear concealed pocket, the fact that it's just a sleeve, there's nothing keeping your things fully secure in there. And then lastly, from a comfort standpoint, the straps. I find that they're a little narrow. The main one for me, and one of the big reasons why I prefer the City Sling 3 over this one, is getting into the main compartment, and really, other than this front pocket, there's nowhere else that I find that my things are secure in there. And you have smaller things, AirPods, I wouldn't put in there, because still, even if you cinch this up, they could technically still slide out, maybe not easily, but I still wouldn't feel fully comfortable with it. But the main compartment zipper, sometimes, like, that was actually pretty graceful. Sometimes it's smooth, sometimes it's not. I like consistency, and I think part of it is you can see here the X-Pack fabric folds in a little bit, so sometimes it slightly catches that, but it just, more than anything, you really need a second hand to hold it down to give you that leverage. So it almost ends up being like 3 zippers, right? It's like 1, 2, 3. Psychologically, that creates a little bit of a barrier for me. Every time I want to get in the main compartment, it's just not as effortless as a quick horizontal zip like in a traditional sling. Now, once you get in here, it is cool that you have this like vertical top-down access, and I'll show you in the walkthrough like what you can actually put in here. But because this is the only place where you can organize the vast majority of your things and keep it secure, I just wish the getting in and out of it was super easy. Here, I do appreciate that they included a rear compartment, but it's really just a sleeve and there's nothing securing it. If I have my sunglasses on, for example, I'm walking into a store, it's a great place to just like put them in there temporarily, but it still doesn't feel like this is my go-to place for anything valuable. Like when I'm in travel mode, this would be a perfect place for me to put my passport, for example, or my family's passports. Fits great. But again, the fact that it's not secure means it's automatically out. I was literally talking to my wife about this because she was initially disagreeing with me. She's like, no, this is a great spot for a phone, and it is. She's like, I'm gonna be wearing it, so I don't have to worry about it tipping over. Literally like 15 minutes later, she went to tie her shoe and she had her phone in there and it like slipped out. Luckily, we weren't in concrete, but she like was like laughing. She's like, yeah, that makes sense. So something as simple as a little magnet or a zipper would go a long way with this rear concealed pocket, especially because as far as what fits in here, the best thing that I've found that fits comfortably in there that I wouldn't mind is something like a moleskin. I'll include the dimensions of this moleskin below. So something like that, or a book where you're like, hey, you know, that feels like pretty secure, great. But an iPad mini, for example, does fit in there, but without a case or without a bulky case. And I'd just be worried about that slipping out. Other than that, it's like, what are you gonna put in here? I'm not sure. Anyways, you might have something that you don't mind not being secure, but a sling is something that I just want that peace of mind, that security. And I think that pocket, if you're gonna include it, yeah, just give me a little peace of mind there. And then lastly, you'll see the straps themselves it's not so much the thinness of the material, but it's how narrow they are. So when I packed it out with a decent bit of stuff, yeah, it just digs a little bit more into your shoulders than something that has wider straps. I see why they did it, like to keep the profile of this bag slim. This is pretty much the width that they're working with because it's in a top-down orientation. So unless they made it bulkier, yeah, I don't know, actually come to think of it, yeah, there's definitely ways around it. I think they could have maybe made it happen with thicker ones, but I do think that because it's a very similar size as the City Sling 3, I'd say this is like the cooler, more stylish brother of the City Sling 3 that makes a few compromises in terms of comfort and functionality for the look. And I think for a lot of people that value that more, maybe they're not carrying a ton of stuff, so the comfort factor isn't that big of a deal either way. I see the visual appeal of doing something a little bit more minimal like that. With that being said, let's get into the sling itself. This is in the X-Pack material. I did a video recently comparing the City Pack 2 and the City Pack Pro 2, where I get pretty deep into the material options. The same philosophy applies here. I'll include a link if you want to check it out. Otherwise, the TLDR is if you're going to be using this for traveling or commuting and you live in a place where it rains a decent bit, peace of mind wise, you're going to have your things protected better in X-Pack or Ultra compared to the Cordura. But longevity wise, Cordura isn't as vulnerable to things like delamination, pimpling, peeling of the PU coated zippers. And because you don't have AquaGuard zippers, typically they are smoother, even though I've found that's not always the case either way. You'll notice they have a little handle up top, which is nice. You got the Fidlock V-buckle, which can be tightened. I've found you want to find like a good tension so that you can one-handedly, while it's on, take it off if it's too loose and you're going to be fighting with it a little bit. And then when you open it up, they also have a key leash here, which I do have mixed feelings on depending on what you're planning on storing in here. But if you want to throw your phone in here, for example, when I put my keys in here, and this is like my keys with a little Orbit key, so it is a little bulkier, but even when I do just a key, right? And then if I want to throw my phone in here, see, like the key's like under, I have to kind of move them out of the way. And it's just one more thing that I need to think about when I'm putting anything in there. So I don't know. I totally see why they threw the key leash in the front, right? Like if you want to get inside your house, like you want that closest to the front as possible. But yeah, I think maybe doing a removable key leash where you have the option of maybe putting it somewhere else if you're planning on having this be your dedicated phone pocket or something that you're accessing. Because if not, when I've got my keys in here, you're kind of limited in what you can put in there, where you don't mind the keys interacting with whatever else you've got in there. And then here in the back, you've got that rear concealed pocket that's pretty spacious. Like, it's pretty easy to get in and out of, but again, because it's not secure, I haven't found too many things other than like a moleskin that fits in here. An iPad mini does fit in here, but it's bulging out, and I had to take my mom's iPad mini case off to make it fit. That wouldn't be an ideal place, honestly, for me to put that in there. Passports like fit super comfortably, but just, yeah, probably not the place I'd be throwing my passports either. It is, I will say, a convenient spot when you're doing like quick errands, you're getting out of the car, you've got it on already, you're going inside somewhere, and if you do want to throw your phone or your sunglasses or something like that in there, as long as you know there's a possibility that if you have to bend over or something like that or take it off, that it'll slide out. But it is an easy, like quick in and out spot, which I've grown to appreciate for those specific use cases. And then lastly, main compartment. With the X-Pack, you get the orange liner. Honestly, like, I really dig the X-Pack orange combination, but I think it works better with something like a sling or a pouch where it's just not as much surface area, because this orange it's like one of those hazmat suits. It's very, very vibrant. As someone that gets overstimulated pretty easily, yeah, I think the orange on a backpack would probably be a little too much for me, but still really nice. On the back pocket, you have a stretch mesh pouch, a big one there. In that stretch mesh pouch, that's where I keep my mobile battery bank. And then you have two stretch mesh slit pockets right across from it. One takes up like 75%, and then the other takes up around 25%. I throw my AirPods on the smaller one, and then I throw my sunglasses in the other one. And then here you do have a little additional space there, but I wouldn't really put anything bulky, especially if you're putting something a little bulkier here in the front compartment, because really they're sharing space, so it gets tight pretty quickly. I really do like the organization. Like, backpack wise, I am definitely a top-down access type of creature, and I do like the idea of that. When it comes to slings, I just think if, yeah, this access into the main compartment, which I am a weirdo. I think for most people, they're probably not gonna have much of an issue with the main compartment. I've actually like figured out that kind of the move is, when you're wearing it, just to like push down on it. Like, I put my finger here, which is just, you know, something you gotta get used to, but you push down just to give it some tension, and then it helps with zipping and unzipping. But even still, like, yeah, it just sometimes catches. It's these two corners that give you a little friction sometimes. I'm sure the zipper will soften up over time. And right now I'm sitting down, which is not the natural sling access position. And since this is the only zipper in the whole entire bag, I give it a 7.9 from a Pilgrim Churn Butter score. That was a little bit more frictionless to get into. That would be a pretty big game changer for me, absolutely. So anyways, final thoughts. Compared to the City Sling 3, I do like the look of the Street Sling more. The City Sling, it's a dope looking sling, but it's got, I talk about it in my City Sling video, has a bit of a tactical hot dog aesthetic to it, whereas this one's more urban, stylish. But to me, slings are, yes, I want my sling to look good. I'm not gonna wear a sling that looks ugly, but functionality still comes first. And I just find that the access into the City Sling 3 is a lot easier. It's one quick horizontal zip. You have their front little stash pocket, which is definitely not nearly as cool or as functional as the stash pocket on here. But really, you're limited to 1 to 2 things that you're gonna grab in here. Other than that, you really will be using the main compartment for mostly everything else. And just the fact that it's just that quick sideways zip to get into the place where most of your things are, combined with the fact that it is more comfortable because it has like mesh padding on the back, the straps are thicker, and you can also use that as a hip pack. And honestly, I'm slowly, gently converting into a hip pack person. It's pretty freaking practical. I've been like riding my bike quite a bit and just using it in hip pack mode versus sling mode. Swing it around, it's like it's not even there. So, which with this, you can't really do that. And then lastly, with a City Sling 3, you get a rear concealed pocket that's zippered and secure, which ultimately just checks off more boxes for me and what I look for in a pocket relief sling of that size. For where I think it's a cool, new, different approach to slings, has the sleek, cool urban factor. And for people that live in New York or San Francisco or wherever in the world you live, I know there's cities where it's like, you want to look the part wherever you are, and the looks on this guy go a long way for sure. It comes in their ballistic nylon Cordura for $69. The X Pack is $89, and then they have it in Ultra for $99, which is a little cheaper if you're comparing it to the City Sling 3, which starts at $89 with the Cordura version. But yeah, other than that, best of luck and cheers.